The mysterious death of JonBenét Ramsey, America's Little Miss, and the blood-stained Christmas Eve. She was only 6 years old, with a sparkling crown and an angelic smile that captivated millions of Americans. One cold winter morning, just after Christmas, she was found in her basement, dead, gagged, hands tied, with a rope around her neck. A nearly 2-page ransom note was left on the stairs, demanding $118,000, an uncanny match to the bonus her father had just received from the company. Everything America had believed in, safety, family, the beauty of childhood, was shattered overnight. From then on, the name JonBenét Ramsey became a haunting obsession for the entire country. The press called it the most perfect, most horrifying, and most mysterious case of the century. Thousands of articles, hundreds of television shows, countless theories, but nearly 30 years later, no one knows who killed the little girl. A dead angel in a brightly lit Christmas house. A strange letter, a staged scene, a crime too perfect. And perhaps the killer is still at large, smiling in the darkness. On the 26th of December 1996, Boulder, Colorado, was still filled with Christmas spirit. Inside the Ramsey family's luxurious mansion, where the wreaths and twinkling lights were still on, Mother Patsy Ramsey woke up early. She was planning to catch a morning flight to Michigan with her husband John Ramsey and their 2 children JonBenét and Burke. But as she walked downstairs, something froze her. On the step was a 2-page handwritten letter. The first line, written in block letters, read, "M.R. Ramsey, listen carefully. We have your daughter. Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We have kidnapped your daughter." The strange letter was unlike any ransom note the police had ever seen. It was written in a half-serious, half-cinematic tone, using words like foreign faction, foreign organization, we represent a small foreign faction, we represent a small foreign faction. At the end of the letter was the ransom demand of $118,000, a very specific number. Patsy screamed for her husband. John Ramsey ran down from the bedroom, picked up the letter, and read it in shock. Then they rushed upstairs and opened the door to their daughter's room. It was empty. The bed was empty. The bedding was disheveled. The girl was gone. At 6 a.m., Patsy called 911. Her voice was trembling, choked. "They have kidnapped my daughter. There is a ransom note. Please come now." That call later became one of the most controversial pieces of evidence in FBI history. When the audio was analyzed, a small voice, apparently a boy, was heard at the end of the clip. "What do we do now, Mum?" Possibly JonBenét's brother Burke. If true, that would mean the entire family was downstairs during the call, not just Patsy, as she claimed. The police arrived less than 10 minutes later. The elegant house on 15th Street was locked down. There was no sign of a broken door, no strange footprints in the snow outside. Everything looked too perfect, too peaceful for a kidnapping. But when they searched, there was no trace of an intruder. Not even a police dog could smell a stranger. However, because the ransom note explicitly mentioned kidnapping, the police initially treated the case as a regular kidnapping, not a murder. And that mistake led to the investigation taking a turn for the worst. The Ramseys cooperated, and friends came to comfort them. The police told them not to touch anything, but the house quickly filled with people. Neighbors, priests, close friends, relatives, all coming and going freely. The scene was completely destroyed in the first few hours. This later cost the investigators any chance of collecting original evidence. At 8 a.m., John Ramsey called his private pilot and said, "The flight is cancelled today." He seemed to be trying to act calm, but there was something in his eyes that investigator Linda Arndt noted. He was too controlled, too calm, not like someone who had just lost a child. Meanwhile, Patsy cried, screamed, prayed. The police asked them to wait a few more hours because the ransom note said, "We will call at 10 a.m. with instructions on how to deliver the money." 10 hours passed. No one called. 11 a.m. 12 a.m. 1 a.m. Still no sound. People began to get suspicious. Around 1 p.m., the investigator asked John Ramsey and a few friends to check the house again, to see if there was anything unusual. John went straight to the basement. which the police had not checked thoroughly before, thinking it was just a storage room. The basement door was ajar. He opened it, turned on the light, and then he screamed, shocking everyone. "Oh my God!" Under the dim yellow light, JonBenét's body lay on the cold floor. She was wearing a white nightgown, her blonde hair spread out like an angel, her mouth taped, her neck tightly bound with rope. Her hands were tied with nylon rope. A blanket covered half of her body, as if someone was trying to cover her up. John Ramsey rushed over, picked up his daughter, screaming, and placed her on the living room floor. "They killed my baby. They killed my baby." Police and friends rushed in, panicked. But the act of carrying the victim's body away from the scene erased any remaining forensic evidence. Blood, hair, fibers, fingerprints, all mixed together in the chaos. By the time the medical examiner arrived, JonBenét had been dead for at least 6-8 hours. Her neck had been strangled with a rope, and there was a large fracture on her head from a hard blow. Cause of death: asphyxiation combined with blunt force trauma. Police discovered a garrote, a type of rope wrapped around her neck, the other end attached to a broken broom handle, used for strangulation. The broom handle matched the set of handmade tools in Patsy's home. There were no obvious signs of rape, but tests showed small traces of genital trauma, leading to the hypothesis of sexual abuse. What was even more frightening was that there was no sign of forced entry. The doors and windows were intact. The police began to think that the killer was someone in the house. From there, America was divided. One side believed that JonBenét's parents, John and Patsy, were hiding the crime. The other believed that there was a real intruder, a ghost who had acted and then disappeared. The news spread everywhere. Newspapers surrounded the Ramsey house, flashbulbs flashing. The death of the child beauty queen, who had won many titles such as Little Miss Colorado and America's Tiny Star, became a media sensation. The whole of America was glued to its TV screens. Photos of JonBenét, in a gown, wearing a crown, performing on stage, now looked like funeral photos. The police in Boulder, a peaceful city not accustomed to murder, were stunned by the pressure. The FBI got involved. Experts who analyzed the ransom note found that it was written on paper and a pen taken from the Ramsey home, and the handwriting was a 95% match with Patsy Ramsey's. A terrifying coincidence. During interrogation, Patsy maintained her innocence. "I didn't kill my daughter. Someone came into my house and did it." But when asked by the police why she wrote a 2-page letter, something no one would do in a real kidnapping, she was confused. John Ramsey, a successful businessman, owner of the computer company Access Graphics, maintained a suspiciously cool demeanor throughout. When the FBI asked him why he found his daughter's body so by chance, he simply replied, "I had a feeling." As the news spread across America, the name JonBenét Ramsey became more than just a case. It became a cultural phenomenon, a collective obsession. Everyone had their own theories. Someone in the house, a maniac on the street, or the mother herself, obsessed with her daughter's beauty. The story became even more complicated when the media began to dig into the Ramsey family's lavish lifestyle. The luxury mansion, the parties, and the world of child beauty pageants, where a 6-year-old girl was dressed up like an adult, curled her hair, painted lipstick, dressed in evening gowns, and practiced catwalks in front of hundreds of spectators. The image of JonBenét in a yellow dress, smiling brightly under the spotlight, once captivated America, has now become a heartbreaking symbol. Psychologists, journalists, and parents across the country debate. Did child beauty pageant culture contribute to her tragedy? Did the spotlight attract a pervert? Or was it the pressure to be perfect in the public eye that sent the Ramsey family spiraling into disaster? Meanwhile, the police continued to search the house from the basement to the attic. They found a small window in the basement that was slightly open. There were strange footprints in the dust underneath, and an old suitcase pulled out as a doorstop. This was considered important evidence for the intruder theory. But ironically, the dust on the doorframe was almost undisturbed, proving that no one had actually come through there. Footprints also did not match any shoes found at the scene. In the forensic report, the expert clearly stated, JonBenét's clothes had traces of fabric that matched her mother's shirt, and nail polish that matched the one Patsy had used the night before. In her stomach there was a small part of a pineapple, an unfinished breakfast in the kitchen. The scary thing, Patsy insisted that no one had eaten that morning, and that she had been abducted from her bedroom. But on the dining table was a bowl of pineapple, with Burke's, her 9-year-old brother's, fingerprints on the side of the bowl. This led to a lurid theory that the public did not want to believe. Was JonBenét beaten to death by her brother in a fit of childish rage, and then her parents tried to cover it up? The theory was based on a strange wound to JonBenét's head, a hard blow with a rectangular object. The police found a Maglite flashlight in the kitchen, exactly the size of the wound. No fingerprints, no blood. An object too clean to be suspicious. While the investigation was in disarray, the media was ablaze. CNN, ABC, Fox, every channel showed the Ramseys. Their every move, every glance was scrutinized every second. One linguist analyzed the way Patsy spoke in interviews, concluding that her intonation suggested she was hiding something. Others pointed out that John Ramsey was too calm, like he was acting. Late-night talk shows mocked the case, and tabloids printed millions of copies a day. There was no social media in America, but every coffee shop, every newspaper, every family was talking about JonBenét. When the first DNA test results came in, everyone was shocked. An unknown DNA sample was found in JonBenét's underwear, not matching her father, mother, or brother. The police changed their minds. The intruder was back on the board, but the evidence was not strong enough. The DNA could have come from a garment factory worker or from someone who handled the evidence. In 1997, just 4 months after the murder, the Ramseys hired a lawyer and a PR team and refused any private interviews with the police. This was a strategic mistake that turned public opinion against them. "Innocent people don't need lawyers," one commentator said. But John Ramsey responded on television, "When the whole country is blaming you, you need protection." Meanwhile, little Burke, the only surviving witness in the house, was isolated from the public. No one knew what he saw that Christmas night. It wasn't until years later, in an interview with a police psychiatrist, when asked, "Do you know what happened to your sister?" Burke replied, "She was sleeping in the basement." That simple statement sent a chill down the spine. In April 1997, a secret grand jury was convened to consider whether the Ramseys should be prosecuted. After months of hearings, they concluded that there was enough evidence to prosecute John and Patsy Ramsey for obstruction of justice and the death of their daughter. But District Attorney Alex Hunter refused to sign the indictment. He said, "There was not enough evidence to win the case." The case officially went cold, with no one charged. As everyone was forgetting, a self-confessed witness emerged. John Mark Carr, an elementary school teacher living in Thailand, who in 2006 declared, "I killed JonBenét." The American press exploded. The FBI flew to Bangkok to arrest Carr and bring him back to Colorado. But the DNA test results did not match. He was just a paranoid man obsessed with the case. In 2008, modern DNA technology was applied. The results showed that the DNA sample found did not belong to any member of the Ramsey family, and so the prosecutor officially cleared John, Patsy, and Burke. But that doesn't mean they were completely innocent, just insufficient evidence. Patsy Ramsey died in 2006 of ovarian cancer, taking the secret to the grave. And the intruder, if there was one, was never caught. One potential suspect was Gary Oliva, a convicted pedophile who lived near the Ramseys and had been arrested for possessing child pornography. His friend testified that Gary had said, "I did something terrible to a little girl." But again, the DNA didn't match. Every lead turned up a dead end. In the unreleased files, there's a chilling detail. Forensic experts found a pencil scribble on a table in the basement that read SBTC Victory, the last words in the ransom note. No one knows what it means. Some say saved by the cross. Others, Subic Bay Training Center, the former U.S. military base in the Philippines. But there was no evidence to back it up. The investigation spanned decades, more than a dozen prosecutors, hundreds of FBI agents, and thousands of pages of documents. Every Christmas, American television channels replayed the JonBenét case as a dark legend. The child beauty queen murdered in her own lavish home. In the hearts of Boulder residents, the fear never went away. The Ramsey family home, after many ownership changes, is still considered a cursed house. The new buyer once said that, "Every night, I hear children laughing in the hallway." Over time, the JonBenét Ramsey case became a symbol of American tragedy, a place where fame, media, and crime blend into an impenetrable fog. Every year, at Christmas time, people look up at the twinkling lights outside and remember the little girl with the angelic smile who died in that very light-filled house. Thousands still believe that somewhere, the truth is hidden, buried deep in the pages of records, in conflicting testimony, or in the conscience of someone still alive. Years later, independent forensic experts were invited to review the records. One of them, Dr. Henry Lee of O.J. Simpson fame, confirmed there was no hard evidence of an intruder, but there was also not enough evidence to incriminate the family. In other words, everything was suspicious. Boulder police were heavily criticized for the worst crime scene management in history. Dozens of people came and went, blood was cleaned up, the body was moved, the letter was handled multiple times. If the case had been handled professionally from the beginning, the killer might have been caught within the first week. But now, all traces have disappeared. Another detail that haunts the public: the last lines of the blackmail letter. "Don't try to grow a brain, John." The sentence is a mockery, as if the writer knew who John Ramsey was, understood his personality, knew how he would react. And the signature, S.B.T., victory, remains the biggest mystery. Many language experts believe this is a form of military code or a reference to a group of people who fought in the war. Some journalists believe it is just a fabrication by someone in the family, trying to make the case look like a complicated conspiracy. Over the course of nearly 3 decades, more than 30 people have confessed to killing JonBenét. From pedophiles to psychopaths, everyone wanted to be famous by associating their name with the case. Police spent millions of dollars on DNA testing, interviews, and verification. But all were wrong. Like a curse, the case seemed to drag the entire United States into a spiral of skepticism and obsession with fame. In 2016, the 20th anniversary of JonBenét's death, Netflix and CBS simultaneously released their own documentaries. CBS's film, The Case of JonBenét Ramsey, caused a stir when a team of experts concluded that Burke Ramsey, her brother, could have been the one who caused the girl's accidental death, a blow with a flashlight after a childish argument. The parents then panicked and staged the kidnapping. CBS faced a $750 million lawsuit from the Ramsey family and was forced to apologize and pull the film from the air. Yet, the theory persists in the public mind. Modern investigators see the JonBenét case as a classic example of the failure of the justice system to respond to media pressure. The media turned the investigation into a manhunt, turning the victim into an entertainment product. Tabloids described her as a fallen angel, while talk shows talked endlessly about ambitious mother Patsy Ramsey or cold father John Ramsey. Some magazines even compared JonBenét to Marilyn Monroe, the beauty icon who died young. A 6-year-old child was turned into a cultural icon she never chose. But behind that halo, there are still details that people rarely know. JonBenét was a girl who loved to draw, loved to eat marshmallows, and always wrote thank you letters to Santa Claus every Christmas. On the last night of her life, she left a small note on the table. "Santa, I love you. See you next year." The letter Patsy found after her son died. It was still kept by John Ramsey, laminated, framed in glass, as a farewell that was never said. Time does not erase the pain, but only deepens it. John Ramsey now lives in seclusion, rarely giving interviews. He once said, "I don't care what people think. I just want to know who killed my son." Burke, the boy back then, is now a man in his 40s, still avoiding the camera. In a rare interview in 2016, Burke smiled awkwardly when asked about his sister, his eyes so strange that many people shuddered. Boulder police say the case remains open. The file has been updated with new DNA technology, which can be compared to millions of samples worldwide. In December 2022, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation confirmed that it was working with a private lab to process DNA samples using next-generation technology. But so far, no results have been released. Perhaps the killer is dead, or still living in the world, carrying the secret like a scar in his mind. What makes the JonBenét case so special is the cruel contrast between beauty and death, between the spotlight and the darkness of the basement. A child born into luxury, called America's princess, ended up dying alone, bound and gagged, in the cold basement of her own home. The irony of this story goes beyond a crime. It becomes a symbol of hypocrisy, where behind the bright smiles lies the abyss of fame, pressure, and family secrets. Many believe that this case will never be solved, because the truth was buried with that little body. But others hope that one day, when technology is advanced enough, the DNA in JonBenét's clothes will speak up. Then, the perpetrator, whether someone in the house or someone on the street, will have to face justice. On Christmas Eve 2025, when millions of homes are lit up, people will still tell that story. In the cheerful songs that ring out on the streets, someone will still whisper, JonBenét Ramsey. She has become a reminder that, even in the most beautiful, warmest places, evil can still creep in, silently, coldly, and absolutely.